Hi everybody, welcome back to the Gallowgateshots YouTube channel and welcome back to another match preview. This week we're going to be taking a look at the Crystal Palace game. It's Newcastle's sixth game of the season and yeah, nice to be back at St James's Park. I am Scott, I'm your host for this one as always, and I'm joined by Daryl and Matt. Daryl, how are you today?
Just about getting over last night's results. Feeling pretty positive.
Yeah, we are recording this the night after the Liverpool fiasco, shall we say, and the shenanigans that went on at the end of that game. Matt, I understand you didn't get to see the game, but you were following along. How are you today?
Yeah, good, thanks. Yeah, just nice and calm after having a little vent throughout yesterday evening and this morning. But yeah, all good now.
Yeah, I think we've all had a little vent and kind of had a chance to take stock of what happened and kind of realize that it was always going to be quite inevitable. I think, Daryl, did you predict the 2-0 in the last preview? Yeah. So shout out to Adam P for getting the prediction spot on. I was right until the very last second of the game. I said it'd be a 1-1 draw. So there we go.
I wish you'd have been right.
So do I. Although incidentally, I did get the last Crystal Palace game prediction right.
Was that when you started a hot streak?
Yeah, that started my streak. Got the times of goals and everything. So we'll see if we can do the same today. If you do like this content, we do these match previews for every single game. We also have other shows on this channel, such as the Always Smiling Faces podcast, which they are about to record tonight in review of the Liverpool game. We will touch on it a little bit in this video. We also have Extra Time. We've got the FPL show featuring Matt, who you see on your screen there. He'll be back this week from his month-long camping trip. That's been an ongoing joke on those FPL videos. We also have stuff like match previews, like I said, like what we do here. And there's other content as well. If you do like this sort of stuff and you want to see more of it, please consider becoming a subscriber. It's absolutely free to do so. All you got to do is scroll down to the bottom of this video, hit that big red subscribe button, and while you're there, give the thumbs up or thumbs down a little hit. And if you want to be notified when we have new videos coming out, just hit the little bell icon that's next to both of those, and you will be notified as soon as they hit YouTube. One more piece of maintenance before we move on to the preview, and that is to let you know that the Gallowgateshots match preview is brought to you by Magpin. Magpin are the go-to site for high-quality, unofficial enamel pin badges of Newcastle United players, legends, and retro kits. They're also doing these cool little postcards I've seen, which have infographics of every single game. I think they're ready to go for that first month. So I don't know if it's too late to sign up for those yet, but get them for next month. They look pretty nice. For more information, you can visit their website on magpinbadges.bigcartel.com. Right then, boys, we'll jump straight into it. We have a home fixture this time against Crystal Palace. Patrick Vieira's side are currently 13th in the Premier League with 5 points. That's coming from 1 win, 2 draws, and 2 losses. They have played, I believe, Liverpool and Man City already, if I remember rightly. So very similar run up to what we've had in that respect. Currently sitting on 6 goals with one main man who we'll come to a bit later on, Wilfried Zaha being that main goal scorer with 4 of those. Daryl, just to come to the Palace game, what are your initial feelings on how we'll line up and how we'll and what we'll do against Palace?
Well, I think the first thing that comes to my mind will be, despite how well the lads did against Liverpool, I think it could be a case of we'll see a return to the centre-back of Shea and Botman. He'll restore that centre-back partnership for this game. So there's 2 changes straight away. The rest of the side probably picks itself, and I know there's a little doubt about Isak after he picked up a slight dead leg in the second half against Liverpool, which is why he came off. But I think if he's fit, he'll be guaranteed to start. I mean, I know we're going to sort of cover the Liverpool game a little bit, but he's certainly got a finish in him. He took both of those goals extremely well, even if he did get the second one chalked off rather dubiously. But yeah, I think it'll probably be a change at centre half. It'll be the key changes that we see going into Palace. Obviously, we've touched on Will Zaha there. He's the danger man. He's the one that we need to keep quiet. And to be honest, I think in the last few times that we've faced Palace, we've done quite well to do that. We've achieved that task of being able to keep them quiet. The squad, I don't really know a lot about it. I'd probably say it's either on par or slightly weaker than it was last year because of the signings they've made and the players they've lost. Their form coming into the game, I think they start against Arsenal and get beat by Arsenal in the first game of the season. And you mentioned,
I don't think they've played Liverpool. I think it was City that they've played.
And they've had that game against Man City as well. Which that record away from home against Man City is a funny one because they tend to do. They're quite capable of scoring goals at the Etihad. I don't know how that works out, but it's one of them things, I suppose. But yeah, I think 2 changes at centre half would be the key thing we'll see on Saturday.
Yeah, we will delve a bit deeper into the lineups and our predictions for that towards the end of this. But Matt, we talked a little bit before this about Palace's incomings and outgoings. They've spent 35 million, I believe, and they've recuperated 5 of that from outgoings. Main one there being Christian Benteke going to DC United. Apart from that, they haven't done much this transfer window. They've brought in Doucouré, who you would say is probably one of their bigger signings. And the rest, a couple of free transfers and a loan, I believe. So they haven't reinforced their side too much. So do you think it's going to be same as last year if you think of performances against us?
Yeah, you're right. They haven't really had that many reinforcements. Doucouré is a fantastic signing, I think. Sort of kind of midfield signing I wish we had made, to be honest. A bit envious in that sense, but realistically, they haven't really strengthened as much as what they probably needed to. If you look back to last summer, they had a massive overhaul. Like they lost Van Aanholt and a massive core of their defence. So they brought in Joachim Andersen, who's been terrific, and the guy who got called up for England, is it Gahey or something Gahey or the English?
Yeah, I think that's right. Yeah.
And the fact that they've managed to get that squad performing so well, even though they're all relatively young, is fantastic. It's something that worries me a little bit. But when you look at the underlying stats of Palace and how much they like to concede chances and concede goals so far this season, makes me think we're at least good for 1 goal. Just we've got to make sure our defence is in tip-top shape, and we could come away with a win.
Yeah, and you'd like to mention about our defence, that Eddie Howe probably rested the 2 main centre-backs that we would normally start with against Liverpool with this game in mind, with it being more of a winnable match. Although we'll come to the Liverpool game now just briefly. And again, if you want a bigger deep dive of the Liverpool game, the Always Smiling Faces podcast, that's going to be recorded tonight, but will be out by the time this is out. So again, it's one of those ones where you got to figure out when it's on, but it'll be out by the time you're watching this. They'll be going into the match in a much more deeper, much more in-depth look at that. But Daryl, I'll come back to you for this one. For that Liverpool game, were you surprised to see the 2 centre-backs switched? And in terms of, Lascelles and Dan Burns starting together, who I don't think they started many games last season together. I think it was always Shaw and one of the others. They very rarely had them 2 paired up. Was that a shock to you?
A massive shock, to be fair, Scott. When the team came out and I seen that it was those 2 that were playing at centre half, I was having kittens and nightmares and all sorts of things going on in my head when it was announced. I was thinking, good grief. But I mean, fair credit to the boys. You know what it is? They put a fantastic shift in for that whole game. They did far better than I expected them to do as a pairing against one of the best teams in the country, if not Europe, if not the world. And I think that goes for the whole team. But to have that centre half, Liverpool effectively struggled against our B-side centre half pairing, which is such a massive credit to those 2 lads who were put in there as a partnership, and the team as a whole did fantastic. But yeah, that partnership in itself has sort of proven that it can be relied upon when necessary. Yeah,
I think a lot of that result, well, not the result so much, but the performance last night, maybe's put put the board and the owners off maybe pulling the trigger on another signing today, which, you know, we're currently recording this. There's 2 hours left of the transfer window. It doesn't look like we're doing any more business, although as it's been touted all day, expect the unexpected. So it'll probably get to 10:59 and someone will come waltzing through the door. But I don't see Andy Carroll driving up the A1 like he did last time. Matt, I understand you didn't really see the game, but I'm assuming you saw highlights and stuff. When you saw that starting lineup that we were putting out against Liverpool, what was going through your mind?
I was terrified. I was preparing myself for pain. But to be honest, I'd said it in a few WhatsApp groups. I was hopeful of like a plucky result somehow. Like something in me gut told us that Liverpool might be a bit disjointed. They've not been at the best this season. The lads who actually go out on the pitch for us will be well drilled and they'll want to put in a performance. And it turned out to be true. Although sadly it didn't turn out the way we wanted it to. It was a plucky performance. It was a performance to be proud of, and definitely gives us a bit of momentum. Some might say it's a bit of a deflating result, but I think we'll look at that. And I think Matt Targett put out a tweet today saying it's given them plenty motivation for Saturday. And I think that'll be true. I think they'll be wanting to really go out and prove a point, and hopefully that happens.
Absolutely. I mean, you think we've played probably the 2 best teams in the league now, one at home, one away, and we haven't done too bad for ourselves. You know, if you said to me at this point of the season you'd have 6 points on the board after playing Man City and Liverpool, I would have absolutely took that. I think you're right. I think this sort of, you know, the highs of maybe getting a draw against Liverpool being snatched away right at the last minute probably is deflating. But then today they probably would have got together, or maybe it'll be tomorrow, and probably got the day off today, if I'm being honest. They'll get together in that training room and they'll watch it back. I'm sure Eddie Howe will put them through, you know, watching the game and highlighting the good things that they've done, the bad things that they've done. But there's a lot to take away from that performance in terms of individual performances. There was a few individuals on there who will stand out that you wouldn't expect to do so well against a team like Liverpool. We'll move on to the Palace game. We've already kind of give our kind of initial views on there. Like I mentioned earlier, Crystal Palace haven't really brought that many players in. They have got rid of Benteke and Kouyaté, which were 2 players that featured quite heavily last season for them, if I remember rightly. They also have MacArthur and Butland out injured. And I think MacArthur's only recently emerged in the past 24 hours that he's injured. Obviously, MacArthur, I believe, is 34 now, but he's still featuring in that side quite regularly. He always pulls a little performance out of the bag when it's against us, you feel. Daryl, do you think those 2 players being missing will work in our favour?
You know, anybody who seems to enjoy playing against us, it's always nice to see that they're not going to play. So I think it would probably be in our benefit that if he's not going to play, then that's, you know, something that we can capitalise on. I think, you know, sort of mentioned it earlier, the main threat you get from Palace is everything goes through Zaha, and I think he's the one that we need. You know, there's enough of a threat in other areas that we should be able to manage and cope with, and it's all about keeping Zaha quiet. You know, get in on him early, knock him around a bit, give him a push and a shove, give him a little bruise or something from a little hard tackle or whatever. Just quieting him down straight away. Make him be the one that's moaning all the time, and when he starts to moan and when things don't go his way, he starts to get a bit nasty himself and he can get himself into trouble. So I think that's what we need to be targeting.
Absolutely. Zaha's, for me, one of those players that if you can, you know, rough him up really early, he'll spit his dummy out pretty quickly. And he doesn't seem to be one of those players that can actually perform off that. It actually hinders him, at least from what I've seen. I obviously don't watch him week in, week out, but whenever I've seen him against us, we seem to get on his back, and he doesn't seem to get over that. Obviously, he is a huge threat, and I think any team would want him in their side. You know, especially, you know, if we had him lined up with St. Maximum and Isak, I think that would be a pretty tasty front 3. Matt, your thoughts on Wilfried Zaha and his potential threat on the weekend?
I think he's the only person in that Palace side who has the potential to get them a result against us. This might come and bite me for saying that. I mean, I've said it now. Someone just strip that audio and get it ready. But seriously, I think. I mean, I had a little peek at some stats, and they've got the second worst minutes per chance out of everyone in the league apart from Bournemouth. So
Wow.
they're not having as many chances as every other team. I think that's purely because they rely heavily on Zaha. If he doesn't perform, the team doesn't perform, and it's been like that for quite a few years. There was a little hint as well in the last game that Zaha's getting a bit frustrated at their defence. Looks like attacking wise, they're providing the goals. They've only failed to score once this season, but
Yep.
they're getting frustrated at their back line, conceding. I think they conceded late against Brentford.
Yeah, they did.
So actually, I think that might work in our favour. That there's a little bit of an irritation there. And if it looks like Zaha's getting frustrated early doors, then that can only be a good sign for us.
Yeah, and it's surprising that the defense of a team that Patrick Vieira is managing is maybe not doing so well. Obviously, he was a central defensive midfielder, central midfielder in his time, and he used to really bail out the back four when needed and really command that. They don't seem to have that sort of player in that side. There doesn't seem to be many leaders in that side. Or actually, what you'd probably say is that MacArthur is probably the leader in that side, and he's not going to be featuring. So that could be a big miss for them. It'll be a great game to watch. It's always this good watching against Palace. We tend to do pretty well against them. It doesn't seem to be a bogey side or anything. And I think given our confidence, I think it could be a nice one to be a Newcastle fan. And again, just like you, Matt, that audio is probably going to get pulled out as soon as if we get beat as well. So we're both in it. So me and you, brother, we're here. So don't worry about that. We'll move on to the lineup for Newcastle. Obviously, we've touched on it a little bit. We're about the two centre backs. Obviously, in the last couple of hours, Martin Dubravka has just signed his loan deal to Manchester United, which I don't know. I've just saw that picture of Martin Dubravka in a Man U shirt, and it kind of made me throw up a little bit in my own mouth. There's an image I'm sure you don't really want. But it does seem like we're going to be going into the season with Nick Pope as our number 1 or number 22. It'll be interesting to see if they change his squad number by the end of the registration period. I don't think they will, because they've probably sold a bunch of goalkeeper tops with Nick Pope with Pope 22 on the back. So I think it'll be commercial suicide to do that. However, we are going to be using probably Carl Darlow as our backup. Does that worry you at all, Daryl?
You know what it is? It has worried me as if I, in an ideal world, it would have made me far more comfortable to see Dubravka as the number 2. And I understand Martin's his need to be playing football because he's got a World Cup coming up in the winter, and he is vying.
They didn't qualify.
Oh, did they not qualify?
They didn't qualify. No, so he doesn't have a World, which is what surprised me about his move. I was like, well, you don't have a World Cup coming up, so what is the what's the main reason for this?
Well, that's what I was going to base my argument on. But if that's the case, well, we'll scrap that. I mean, to be honest, like I say, in an ideal world, it would have been a case of I'd be much more confident if Martin was going to be my number 2 over Darlow. And Darlow's, he's had a good few years here, and he's been a fairly decent servant to the club. But for all he's a good shot stopper, it's the other parts of his game that sort of let him down. And if I had to choose between the two, it would certainly be Dubravka over Darlow. Like he was when he was first choice, Dubravka. It was always going to be Dubravka first, then Darlow second.
Yeah.
And if I could choose my number 2, it would certainly be Dubravka. So I think, I still don't get now that we know he's not going to a World Cup, I sort of don't get it. I mean, he will get games in the Europa League, I would expect, because, a lot of these continental coaches like to play the second choice keeper in the secondary competitions. But I'll not wish him any harm. I hope he gets what he wants out of that move and gets the game time he needs. But to me, it's a big loss.
I think the telling thing about the whole loan that's happening is there's no obligation to buy. So he is still a Newcastle player, and come next season, he could be back with us. How long he stays is another question. He will be 34 going on 35 that season. But we'll move on from the goalkeeper situation and move on to the rest of the squad. And we've touched on the two centre-backs, and I think we're both in agreement that probably Botman and Cher come back in unless...
Yeah.
I think Eddie Howe did mention there's potential. Cher's been playing with a few little injuries. So if he's not fit, would you expect it to be Botman and Lascelles? Or do you think he would stick with Byrne and Lascelles if the partnership worked, Matt?
I don't know. I think you'd probably want to play Botman. I don't think Botman would be happy sitting on the bench 2 weeks in a row. He does have a World Cup, so I think he will want to be playing regularly. Bought as one of the key signings. I totally understand. We've played well, but we have still conceded 2 goals. So I think you would look to having Botman put straight in there. You want to play your strongest side. You've rested him for that reason. You put him in regardless.
Absolutely. And then you've got to think, Matt Target pretty much keeps his spot. Same with Trippier. Although Trippier against Zaha could be an interesting one when it comes to pace. I think he's going to rely heavily on, and we'll move up the pitch here, probably Miggy Almiron being on that right-hand side, providing that support where he can, because Miggy can run up and down that field however he needs. And I think that'll be perfect for getting Zaha out of the game. We'll step back a little bit and go to the defence. Obviously, we're not expecting Bruno to be fit still. Eddie Howe said a couple of games, although on his Instagram today, he did post a picture of him in a pair of boots, and it looks like he's training again. So that's a good sign. It'll probably not be for this week, though. I think it's probably too soon. So, Daryl, are we thinking it's going to be Joe Linton, Joe Willock, and Sean Longstaff again?
Yeah, I think he'll probably go with that. Like you say, it's whether or not he feels Bruno will have a game in him in so soon. And I know he said it was 2 games, but did you not say it was 2 games pre-Wolves?
Potentially
against Wolves. So if he was available to be playing, I would certainly have him back in. But I wouldn't be too disheartened if he went with the same 3 from the middle week. The only thing that would concern me would be, after putting all that effort in against Liverpool, how quickly they would get tired. So maybe there's a potential there maybe to put Anderson in as part of the midfield 3. See how that goes. But, it goes without saying, whatever Eddie chooses to do, he's earned that trust with the supporters, and I think we'll trust his decision-making. I mean, we weren't trusting it at 7 o'clock last night when the team got announced, but in the end of the game, you think, he's played a blinder then in terms of the selection, because it paid off. Even though we lost, it paid off because it was such the circumstances of getting that last-minute goal conceding.
Absolutely. There's a reason he gets paid the money to pick the team, and he's doing such a good job of it. We are simply just speculating on what we think he's going to do. This isn't us saying what he should be doing or what absolutely should be happening. We're just simply having a little chat about a game of football that's happening at the weekend. We'll move on to the left-hand side of midfield. You mentioned Elliot Anderson already. He could obviously fill a spot there. But do you think Ryan Fraser keeps his spot, Matt?
Yeah, I think as long as St. Maximin's out, I think that the 2 winger spots will remain the same. From what I saw in the highlights from the last game, both them played out their skin. I think they deserve to keep their place. I would like a little bit more goal threat, like a little bit more end product. I think that's what we've been crying out for, which is why a lot of people will be disappointed that we perhaps haven't invested in a winger this summer. But we are in a nice position where we've got a little bit of depth on the wing. I just hope to God Jacob Murphy doesn't play. I don't want to be too negative, but there seems to be a little bit of a gap in quality from our top 3 wingers down to our fourth best. I would argue the case for having Anderson and giving him a chance, because I feel like we've exhausted the chances now with Jacob Murphy. I think Howe likes a technical footballer, and Murphy's kind of shown that he's not of that ilk, which is a shame. So for that reason, I think Fraser will be given the nod.
Yeah, it's interesting about Jacob Murphy. He seems to have regressed a little bit from even last season. Yesterday, he just seemed to be running around like a headless chicken. Just no real plan or no real kind of idea of what he was doing. He was getting the ball and losing it pretty high up the pitch when there was passes on. So yeah, it would be it's a shame to say about Jacob Murphy. I've never been his biggest fan, but he's had fits and starts of being, oh, hang on, we've actually got a player here, and unfortunately, the bad results are outweighing the good results, probably 5-1 there. So it's a shame. I probably was expecting him to maybe leave in this window, but he does have that shiny 5-year contract, or 5 years left of his 6-year contract that he got last year. So I don't think he's going anywhere anytime soon. Up front, we're all in agreement that it's Chris Wood, right? No, of course not. Alexander Isak, if he's fit, obviously he did go off, he did get his leg iced. It is just a dead leg, but if Football Manager's anything to go by, dead legs. And even Matt Target, he had a dead leg for this 3 weeks.
Yeah.
So hopefully it's not as bad as a Matty Target dead leg. He seemed to be walking on it okay. He seemed to be coming off okay. He was moving a little gingerly around the pitch towards the end of his time on the field. So maybe that's just the initial kind of pain factor, but he looks a player, doesn't he, Daryl?
Oh, he looks every bit worth that 60 million quid that we paid for him. He moves the line, he moves up and down the line well, moves across the pitch with some wonder. It's just very smooth, and he sort of just floats around. And when he he's slightly different to Wilson, where Wilson likes to play the man and be a bit more physical. He likes to get a hold of the ball, and he likes to run at people and put a bit of a dribble in and beat the man with the ball. He did it for both of those goals.
Yeah.
And I mean, obviously it wasn't 2 goals because the second one was out, but we'll call it 2 goals for the sake of the argument. He with both of the moves that led to the goals yesterday, he absolutely blistered them with a bit of skill and a bit of pace. And I mean, I've got to give credit to Sean Longstaff for the through ball for the first one. It was a fantastic spot from him. And Van Dijk was nowhere to be seen, because Van Dijk was supposed to be marking him at that point, and he was just away with the fairies somewhere. And it's not very often you see a forward come into this league and immediately start by placing his finishes high into a goal. They'll always try and keep it low, put it on the floor. I think if it was Wilson had been presented with that chance, I don't think it would have gone in the same place. He probably would have tried to put it either side of Alisson. But to place it where he did, and he did it with the second one as well. The second one was quite a high place finish. And it makes it difficult for the goalkeeper. And it's very much, I think, a continental type thing as well. You see it a lot on the continent where they'll finish it high. But I don't think that means he hasn't got a low finish in his locker. And I think we'll probably see that in the games to come if he hits the ground running.
Absolutely. And he did seem to hit the ground running yesterday. And he seems to have a lot of running in him as well. He seemed to just always want the ball, always want to turn. And, I think once we get a fully fit squad, get him in the field to St. Maximum. Oh, Daryl,
I'm still here.
Bill, mate.
Is the Undertaker there?
The Undertaker's coming in behind you. Once we get all our players fit, I think we'll see another side to his game as well.
There it is.
Matt, is Isak the type of player that goes straight into your fantasy football side?
Oh, it's tempting, It's it's when you get linked with a player, like, you like to do a bit of Dennis Wise scouting on YouTube, don't you? But you kind of you think, oh, these are just their best bits. They won't play like this all the time. But Isak looks like he just does it. Like the dribbling, like the highlights of what you saw was a tall, lanky guy dribbling past people like they weren't there. And you saw that against Liverpool. And the fact that he looks like he can pull in players and leave space for others means that he's not just going to get goals, he's going to get assists.
Yeah.
And that would be perfect for fantasy. Like, if he's going to start week in, week out, when Wilson's fit, my fear would just be the rotation, like his minutes. But right now, for 7 million, was it?
Yeah, 7.
7, yeah.
He's looking like a brilliant buy. The only issue is whether because unlike last season in FPL, there wasn't that many strikers to choose from that were scoring goals. It was just Kane or nothing. This year, you've got Mitrovic, Haaland, Tony, like all these players all these strikers, who are actually bagging points. So yeah, it's hard to start transferring out players for another striker, because you don't want to hop off one and hope to get on another one, because that's when you start missing out on points.
Yeah.
And I can't see myself dropping Haaland anytime soon, or Jesus for him, even though he's amazing. But we'll see. We'll see.
Absolutely. We do have an FPL show coming up for game week 6. I believe you're recording that tonight after this one, Matty.
Yeah.
So if you want more in-depth analysis about who to sign on your FPL teams, when to play your wild card, although we'll say nothing about your wild card, Max, you played it a couple of weeks ago. Tune into that. It'll be available probably the same day as this one. So we'll get that out for you as well. So we'll come to the last part, probably the fun part, really, and that's predicting a scoreline. Like I said, we were quite close with the last one. And again, another shout out to Adam P, who was in the last video, who got it spot on. He said 2-1, and it was 2-1. Matt, I'll stick with you. What's your predictions for this one?
I think 2-1 to Newcastle, obviously. Isak brace, and then I think Zaha will probably get one. Going with the obvious scorers there, I think. But yeah, close game, but goals galore.
So you've heard it here first. Put Isak and Zaha in your FPL teams. Daryl, what's your predictions, mate?
Very similar to Matt, but I'm going to go with a 3-1 Newcastle win. I still can't get Zaha scoring out of my head, so I think he will bag the goal for Palace. I think Isak certainly with at least another goal, just to keep my fantasy team alive at some point. But yeah, I think the home crowd will be well up for it now, especially after the Liverpool results. They'll be wanting to get right behind the lads and push them through another game, because we're a bit vilified now and we need to be putting a stamp on these games and getting points on the board. We've gone through a period where we've had 2 draws or is it 3 draws, and we're back at home for the first time since the draw against Man City, and I think this is our fortress now, and we're going to get a win.
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned the crowd. It's almost like after a performance against City and a performance against Palace like we have done, there may be a sense of expectation from that crowd, and it may put a bit of pressure on the players, but I'm more than certain they'll be able to deal with that, which is why my prediction is going to be 3-0, a 3-0 Newcastle win. I think it'll be 1-0 first half and then 2-0 second half. So we'll get 3 in total. I think the fans will get on Zaha's back so much that it'll affect him. And he's probably going to go and score 3 now and prove me wrong. But I think if Shaw or if Kieran Trippier can put one on him early on, get him spitting his dummy out and get the crowd to react, which I think will happen, that's it. It's game over for Zaha. Like he doesn't come back from that usually. So yeah, I'm going to go 3-0. And I'm going to go for an Isak hat-trick just because he scored 2 last week. Why not? If Haaland can do it, why can't Isak, right?
Yeah. Do you want to give us some minutes of your goals as well, Scott?
No, I'm not going to. I haven't looked at those stats this time. Last time I found a site that had a little bar chart, and it said when Palace are most susceptible to concede goals, and it was spot on, and that's how I got it right. I'll give you first half 1, second half 2. That'll do.
Fair enough.
So this isn't gambling advice, obviously, so don't be putting bets on our predictions. But if you do like this sort of stuff, obviously we do these every week, like I mentioned at the start of the show. Please hit the subscribe button if you do want to see more of this. Hit the like button, hit the dislike button. If you don't like what we're talking about, it helps us either way. So doing either one helps feed that YouTube algorithm of getting these videos out to more people. And if you want to be reminded when we post new videos, we have a load up every single week. Hit the little bell icon and you'll be notified via email. And I think you get a little push on your phone as well. If you want to go one step further, you can also become a member of the Gallowgateshots YouTube channel. It's $2.99 or $4.99 a month. That gets you early access to videos, usually the FPL one, and these match previews. You get early access, and any other special videos that we do go early access for at least 24 hours before they go out to everybody else. And you also get access to the Telegram group, which I checked it after the Liverpool game last night. I had 700 unread messages. So it's there's a lot going on in that group. And it's a really nice little atmosphere, really good group of people. and there's little competitions that we run in there as well for members as well. So you can get involved in all of that. Thanks, boys. This has been a really good one. I'm really looking forward to this Palace game. Usually with Palace, you're a bit, don't know what's going to happen, but I think given my past performances, we should be okay. Yep, Daryl, thanks a lot, mate.
No worries. Pleasure.
And Matt, good luck with your show later on this evening, and we'll see you next time.
Cheers, mate. Looking forward to it. Glad to have us on. Cheers.
Yeah. No worries. And thank you for watching. We will see you in the next one. But good luck to Newcastle. Here's hoping we can get another win, chalked off on the board. And yeah, see you later.
How are the lads?